Good jacket. Happy winter.
I know.
Yeah. Sit that here. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. This is a festive occasion, and it's a brisk morning. So, welcome everyone to really the first day of probably winter. Let's skip fall on this one. So, listen, we have a very special, I think, gathering today, which is obvious by the fact of everyone who's here with us. And, you know, this is also one of these events where we're combining a couple of things. You know, every Monday morning, which has been a tradition since Lawrence was mayor, probably, the Monday morning meeting, I think, probably goes back to Louis. We all the directors gather in the leadership team to plan the week. So this is our Monday morning equivalent. But we want to invite some folks who've worked with Lawrence, especially closely throughout the years. So we're joined by a number of people, but folks from the Balloon Fiesta leadership team, Visit Albuquerque, the Albuquerque Chamber of Commerce, and some former employees sprinkled in. We got some city councilors and some folks from the COG. And so we thank everyone for joining us for our all directors meeting on Monday morning. And of course, Lawrence's family. So a little wave from the fam. And so today we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to share some remarks. Then we're going to hear from, I think, another organization near and dear to Lawrence's heart, as I know many are, but in particular, the Council of Governments, certainly. And then we have prepped Lawrence for some remarks himself. And he's like, where's my staffing? There's no prep, and so this is what happens, when you retire. It's just, you got to do it yourself now. So, and then we're going to unveil something very special. So to provide a little bit of context to where we're at, for some of you who haven't been here, we're obviously at the BioPark. We're at the zoo. We're at a place where Lawrence has been on every plaque here since like 1993-ish or 4-ish. So as you walk outside, every single building has a plaque. You can take a look at just a small piece of his legacy. And, Pat, this is going to be a real race to see who in the end has more names on plaques. Lawrence has got you beat right now. But Pat Montoya is close behind, and he's still working. So, but in this context, just a little bit, this is a new exhibit. So this is one of the latest of essentially Lawrence's projects. Now, obviously, behind all of this, there are teams and there are other people. But we're here today to reflect and really honor and be grateful for all that Lawrence has done. And so this exhibit behind you, which I'm facing so I can see it, but this thing is incredible. This actually allows, and I think I'm going to get this right, tigers and orangutans to literally be together. Like they're not in separate exhibits. They are for a couple of months, but they will be together because not at the same time. Yeah. Oh, dang it. All right, I was gonna say that I was like Miracle of Nature, Africa Savannah, and then it's like the Nature Channel. No. All right, so not together, but they share an exhibit, not at the same time. Yes. And they can walk all around you and above you. So in a weird way, when you go through this, you actually are kind of the exhibit for them. That's really what it feels like, which is really cool. So this is part of our $30 million investment. This is 4.5 new acres at the zoo. This is the largest investment at the zoo since Lawrence's other investments at the zoo at the 90s. Which we like to say 20 years, which is, rounding down significantly. But this is a massive project, and it's part of a number of projects that, interestingly, are going to sort of carry out Lawrence's work many, many years because of the projects that are already in the pipeline that he has his stamp on that are still not yet constructed. But we wanted to also articulate, we're right here, of course, at this elephant overlook. And so this is, it's cold, so I'll probably mess up the zoo stuff here too, but I feel like the elephants don't particularly like a cold morning. So I believe they're inside. No, there's one out. Okay, there we go. Look at this. So right behind me. I know, this is going great. So I'm here to focus on Lawrence, not the zoo. So I was not prepped at all for the zoo. But this is a really cool overlook. And I do remember when we were talking about this, there were a couple of ideas floating around. And Lawrence, among others, we were like, what you really want is a place with your family, with strollers and everything in between, where you can just soak in those animals kind of out in front of you without, a giant barrier between you and so forth. And also a place where we can gather for special events. And that was really, this in a way is also part of one of the probably hundreds of things all around the city that has that little extra Lawrence touch. And so today we're going to be renaming this the Lawrence Rael Pavilion. That's what this is all about. It's right up here. And so this is part of our general Stories of Us project, but we thought what a great story to tell than one of our own, meaning someone who has dedicated their life to public service. And the vast majority of it, the lion's share of it, to absolutely the city of Albuquerque. And so we're going to do some unveiling and pictures at the end, so we'll save that. But I also want to touch on a few aspects of Lawrence's career. And I know most of us are familiar with this, but look, as I look around this room, some of us are actually like, you may have only been at the city for a couple of years. Some of you may have been born and raised here, but like in between, it's worth pausing for a moment just to think about some of these statistics for Lawrence's career. First off, and if we got this right, hopefully 37 years of public service. That is extraordinary in and of its own right. And he had a wonderful stint as director of the USDA. He had 9 years as the ED of the Council of Governments, and that's also why we're going to hear from Dewey Cave in just a little bit. But of course, 14 years as Albuquerque's CAO. That is ridiculous in a great way. Like, what? I don't know. And most importantly, he survived like 4 mayors trying to mess everything up. So, and I think, you never know, obviously, what's going to happen in the future, but I highly doubt we're going to have a CAO for 14 years again or over 4 different mayors. And, hopefully for our city we do. But I think, look, at the end of the day, they don't make Lawrence Raels like they used to. Like, we hope that in the history of our city, there's going to be all sorts of new Lawrence Raels that pop up. But there might not be, because those shoes are really big, they're really hard to fill, and over the course of 37 years, very few people could have accomplished what Lawrence has. And that's why this is even just a small tribute to all the projects and all the work that you've done. Now, 18 years plus at the city of Albuquerque, and that has included is we have this ongoing contest. If you look around and see something in the city, there's this question like, well, who is the CAO? And it is really difficult to find something that was not Lawrence. And so that's actually a much more fun game than guessing who the CAO is. But his mark is on massive projects, whether it is almost everything that you see here at the BioPark that's post-1996. It's all of Tingley Beach. It's everything that's happened at the rail yards. It's the Sunport expansion. It's the convention center, multiple renovations. It's Explora. And let me just mention, that's like all of Explora, because that's how long you've been doing this. It's not just the new wing. And it's also Isotopes Park. If you think, it's hard to believe, but that was literally one of his first projects, second projects, I don't even remember, but early on, actually building Isotopes Park. And Elena Gallegos Open Space, and of course, over at the Council of Government side, the RailRunner. So on top of that, too, we know that, I have to say probably more than anyone else I've ever worked with, every time we do anything, Lawrence also asks about the frontline staff. And so what you do not see a plaque for, and what you don't see physically around you, is the fact that every single time we make a decision about budget or about anything that we're doing at the city, there's always this question that he brings up about, look, how does this help folks who come to work every day on the front line and are getting an hourly paycheck at the, whether it's the person taking out the trash. Lawrence always has all these examples. Or it's the person striping the street. All of these different roles at the city that he always remembers when we make decisions. And so, Lawrence, I want to thank you for that, too, because it's something that you don't see. But you never, ever forgot a single worker at the city of Albuquerque, at the top or the bottom. So thank you for that. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hand it over to Dewey Cave from the Council of Governments for some remarks from his end, and then we'll do some unveilings. So Dewey, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone. I wasn't expecting to speak this morning, but on this special occasion, I am honored to. Lawrence and I go back a long ways, probably much further than most people know, but I spent 26 years at the city of Albuquerque, and I had the pleasure of working with Lawrence. Lawrence, he and I go back a long, long ways, and one of the things I could say is that, we both come from small towns, and he has that I don't know, that pride in being in a small town, but just that relationship that he has with people is something that he was brought up with. And I would say for Lawrence, one of the biggest pleasures I had with him was when he gave me the opportunity to meet his mother. It reminds me a lot of my mom and what I was brought up with, but I think when you see his character, the way he works with people, a lot of that comes from his mom. And she makes the best green chili and the best beans, and I just want to, thank you, Lawrence, for introducing me to your mom and to your family. And so that's really what Lawrence is all about, is about family. I think anybody that's worked with him, he treats you just like you're a brother, just like you're a sister, whatever, but he always wants the best out of everybody, and he encourages that. Like I said, I retired from the city of Albuquerque, and he was actually at the Council of Governments at the time, and he asked me if I wanted to go take advantage of that para thing where you could return to work, and I said I'd love to. I'd love to continue to work with you, and I want to thank you for taking me over there. He's done a lot of work. I mean, you see all the work that he's done at the city of Albuquerque. Council of Governments was totally unknown. And, he built that up. He built, the RailRunner, just a lot of things that we're doing. I think we have a really good reputation, and it's all because of Lawrence. And let me tell you, I get calls all the time, hey, he pays attention to everything that's going on over there. He wants his legacy to be good, and it's my pleasure to have worked with you, Lawrence. Thank you for introducing me to your family. I feel like I'm part of your family, and you all should feel that way, because the city of Albuquerque is in his heart, and I mean, just all the things that he's done, and how can we forget that? So, again, thank you so much, Lawrence, for all you've done, and I'm going to miss you. Actually, I'm not, because I'm sure I'm going to get it. You still have my number, right? Anyway.
Thank you, Dewey. And now I think, let's encourage Lawrence to come on up here and share some remarks.
Well, thanks, Mayor, and wow, it is a surprise, but I think Will couldn't keep the surprise too long. But anyway, well, first let me say thank you all for being here, and thanks for the great recognition. It's just amazing to see all your smiling faces, and quite frankly, faces that they really have made working for the city a joy for me. So, but as with anything, we all have a beginning in our lives, right? And so the movie star there with the sunglasses and the sun shining on her beautiful hair is my 93 years young mother. So, my mom is, quite frankly, has been the rock of our family for many, many years. And my mom and my father met years ago in a little town called Amatepec in southern Mexico. My father was on a program that was out vaccinating cattle in the rural parts of Mexico because there was this thing called mad cow disease, and at that time in the history of the country, the U.S., there was concerns about the disease migrating north, so they sent a lot of folks to the Department of Interior and USDA to go out and help vaccinate animals and protect the U.S. Meat market. And so my father was out there, and my mother was a young 17, 18-year-old, beautiful young lady from this little town, and my grandparents were very strict. And so she and my father courted each other for a period of time with nothing but just letters. My mom would see him in the little town during the weekends when they had celebrations, because he would cut all the folks who come into town to do their trading, and she would see him from a distance. And of course, the word in those days in those little towns was, El Señor Rael, the man from the U.S., because they all were, the U.S. in those days was like, might as well be two worlds apart, because there was very little transportation and communication, except for the post office. And it just so happened that my grandfather and grandmother ran the post office. And it just so happened that this beautiful young lady was always helping her parents with the post office. And so my father would write letters to very good, Rosie. My grandfather would write, or my father would write letters to my grandparents, and then he would drop the letters off at the post office. But there was two letters. So one went to the U.S. and one went to my mom, and then my mom would return the letter and put it in the slot. So long and the short, they dated by mail. He proposed to her, and the story is very romantic, and I'll spare you all the great details. But my point simply is that they married. My older brother was born in Mexico, and they traveled back to the U.S. after his stint with the federal government. And then she proceeded to recognize that in the little town of Sile, where I grew up, we really didn't have any TVs, Mayor. So in 11 years, she had 7 children. And so an amazing siblings that I have, but unfortunately, as life and the great things of life and the tragedies of life, my father, passed away when I was 3 years old. And so she raised 7 kids by herself. And talk about maybe some of my abilities to work with all of you. It sort of began to take seed early in my life when I had to figure out how to navigate who was going to get the first plate at the dinner table, or who sat on the chair that was a bean can or something else. But nonetheless, she raised 7 children. And then again, as life would take its turns, our older brother passed away when he was 17. But she spent her life in the U.S. Because she wanted to give all of us a better opportunity. And it goes to show you that sometimes I talk to lots of you about tipping points in life, about things that change your life and make your life go in a different direction. My mom had so many of those happen to her in her growing up years as a child, but also in her married life and in her life as a mom, where she made decisions that changed the course of the lives of all of us, and thus, to some extent, changed the lives for all of you. And I think that's really an important message for today, for me. I don't forget the employees of the city, because they matter, and what they do every day. And each and every one of you who work for the city and who are directors or support the directors, you all make decisions every day. They change their lives too. And as a result, when we have an opportunity to celebrate their work, we should. And we should thank them for their efforts, because as my mother, who was a cook at the elementary school when we were kids growing up, would always say that her eyes were always there on us, watching us, that you lead by example. And the example is that the person operating the elevator today may be the person that be your boss on the next day, or has a family, has children, has people that he or she that matter to them and that he or she support. And so to me, as the mayor said, when we did all our programs in the city and made decisions, I always thought about how are these employees going to react to this? How are we going to make sure that we support them and that we help them? Because all of us just make decisions. They do the work. They actually make it happen. And you all, with your leadership, and especially those of you who work at the city that work with me, know that ensuring that they have the support and that they are encouraged that they will do a great job for us. I will also just say to all of you is this, as it goes to the tipping point, I had some opportunities. I remember, in fact, we were talking this weekend, Mayor, and I was laughing because of we were talking about making decisions in parking lots. And we were laughing about how my daughter Anna here, we were talking about the fact that parking lots sometimes, people accept jobs or do some things in parking lots, sometimes fun things. Hi, Matthew. And other times, not so fun things. But nonetheless, I said yes to the mayor to come work for the mayor in a parking lot. And Mayor recalls that day, we were there behind the West Core, where, right there by one of my favorite coffee spots. And I met the mayor in the parking lot there. And within a matter of 30 or 45 seconds, the mayor had himself a chief operating officer and had convinced me to come back to work for the city. And so, as I go back to this tipping point piece, is this, I've been lucky to work for 4 mayors. All of them are unique and amazing individuals, and quite frankly, I owe a debt of gratitude to all of them because they changed my course of my life and the work that I was going to do or that I thought I was going to do. Mayor Saavedra, Mayor Chavez, Mayor Baca, and now Mayor Keller. And I will say to all, they all have their great attributes, et cetera, but I'm going to say this without offending too many folks. Look, Tim's an amazing guy. And I couldn't say no to Tim for lots of reasons. But you can see that when you cut through the politics of the work that he has to do every day and the challenges that we have from our community and all the accolades you get and all of the great criticism we all get, the down below that is a genuine, nice human being. And it comes through in every work that he does. And I have always appreciated that about him. And I have always said that I really, really admire him in that way, because not only is he a great pops and a great family man, father and husband, but he's just a good person. And and it's not that any of my other mayors weren't really good people. They all were good people. Tim represents the future of the city, a young mayor with a young family, and he represents what I want to see my son Lawrence and Olivia, his wife there, and Benna, who's not here unfortunately today. And this is really what we need. We need the next generation of leaders to come in and move our city forward. And I've been lucky to be part of what we've done so far. And just thank you, Mayor, for giving me the opportunity to do that and to help you and hopefully help you along the way to make this a better place. Now, as it relates to this little place here, I would just say, look, I don't want to keep it too much longer because I know it's kind of chilly, but this really represents the next generation of exhibits in this facility. A facility that will integrate an amazing way for people to enjoy the animals and to enjoy the beauty of the city and what we have here to celebrate. And sometimes I think we all take it for granted. We have a great community. You have to believe in our people. We have to believe in ourselves, that together we can make it work. And if we separate ourselves by continuing to criticize and to give ourselves, if you will, the options to walk away, we won't get there. So I would challenge all of you, especially those of you who are in leadership positions in this community, and that would be all of you. Look, we are lucky to have a great city. And we are lucky to have great people that work for us. But we have to stick together and work together. If we don't invest in ourselves, we won't expect others to come and invest in us. And so with that, I'll say to all of you is thank you so much It's been my true honor and privilege to have been in this position for as long as I have. And it's been even more of an honor to have known each and every one of you. And I thank you for all that you've done for me, for my family, but most importantly, what you've done for the people of this great community. Thank you.
Well, there's not much more to say, I think, after that. That was so well put on every front, and like a true statesman and leader that you've been for so long. Before we invite folks up, I think, to unveil our signage and take a picture, I also just want to share, I think as I reflect a little bit on, a broader aspect of who we are in this community, in this place, it's also true that, Lawrence, you're continuing to inspire that next generation. Whether it's the fact that, our average director age keeps getting a little younger, and there's a whole new group of people now after this, your fourth stint at City Hall, that you leave that legacy with each and every one of us. And I will tell you, I've shared this story before, but, Lawrence is a big reason why I actually ran for mayor. This is probably what I told you in the parking lot. But, he gave this speech once upon a time, and we are going to record this before you head out. But in general, it has to do with the notion of something I used to do when I was a kid too, which is light tumbleweeds on fire, which is, why the rail trail is also close to dear to our heart. That's probably the Lawrence Rael tumbleweed. But the idea is that I'm going to butcher his story because it's his story, but it's a story of him growing up in Sealy, and he used to tell the story on the campaign trail about, being able to, playing at night and lighting the tumbleweed on fire because it sparkles, right? But then seeing that sparkle and then seeing the lights of Albuquerque off in the distance. And what a great metaphor for the promise of our city. And at the end of the day, I think what you've also always stood for is that belief that as New Mexicans, right, in this high desert place that is mostly rural, which most of us are from, there has to be one place where you can do things like see major sporting events, where you can go to an awesome zoo, where you can get health care, where you can, feel that urban experience in this place. That's the promise of Albuquerque. And that is the promise, actually, that comes from you, Lawrence, from that speech that I heard a long time ago. So thank you also for inspiring me. I always tell Liz, I always tell her the story because whenever I want to run for another term, I'm like, remember the tumbleweed. So, all right, so with that, let's go ahead and dedicate this. So everyone come on up around because we got to do this Lawrence Rael style, which means it has to be a proper ribbon cutting and unveiling. So you all need to be in the picture, not watching the picture. Do a little 3, 2, 1 backwards here, okay? And then after we take a picture, we can all look at it. Okay, so I'll try and pull it out that way. Yeah. All right. So 3, 2, 1. Enjoy and mingle. Actually, there's coffee and snacks, so thanks everyone for coming. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate all of you.